That's kind of the old Herbert Harris. We got the new Herbert Harris today. Wow, you guys look great. Give yourselves a hand. Now I'm sitting there in my meditation. Let me see, do I sound sexy yet? I mean, you know, really, with a group of young people, good-looking young people, I want to sound sexy, so I think I got it. I want to thank the administration here and Dr. Gierno, the president. As a matter of fact, Dr. Lily McNair is a friend of one of my great mentors, and for having me come here. And I guess I'm honored to be here because you all are very special. And what we're going to do today, I like to do something called super learning. Oh, I didn't turn my thing on here. My daughter wants to know what I do for a living, and I keep telling her, baby, I speak. She just graduated from Columbia, and she still thinks I'm unemployed. Okay, I got it right now. And so what I like to do is a technique called super learning. And when I say super learning, the more of the senses you can get involved with the learning process, the better you are able to retain what you know. Example. Have you ever seen a rap written down? If you ever go to the club, everybody always knows the words, don't they? Mm-hmm. But you never see it written. And it's because when they learn the words in a certain rhythm and so that's a part of super learning. So the more things that you can learn in rhythm, then the more likely you'll be able to use it. So I like to use a technique called call and response. You hear it in church. The minister says, "Can I have an amen?" What does everybody say? Amen. So call and response is powerful because it ties down the information. What we're going to be sharing today is something I want everybody to walk out here tied down. Just like you had, what's the thing, the bonnet? When you put it in your bonnet, okay? And so, because this information is important to me, to us, and most of all to you. I also like to use affirmations. When you're learning stuff and you can tie it down, for example, I feel great today. That can program you to feel good all day. So I feel great today. Let's say that together. I feel great today. All right. See, now this man looks like a money man. How about rich? How about I feel rich today? Let's say that together. I feel rich today. All right, you got to say it a little bit more often. Your accountant said that, well, send your accountant memo. You see, a lot of times we get jacked up about what is. Just because you're broke today doesn't mean you may not be rich tomorrow. Just because you're sad today, you can be discovered overnight. You all know it. It happens so many times. Somebody doing something and somebody hears it, and bingo, you're discovered. So, as we're talking, the good thing about this is if I do a really great job, then I can say I did it. And if I do a bad job, then I can say we did it. That makes sense? All right. The reason I'm here is because you, young people, represent the hope for this country. Represent the hope for the race, and really represents the hope for the world. And let me tell you why. When we started listening, any of y'all listen to some of the Democratic debates? And when you start listening, one of the things that stepped out was the fact that race, at this late date, is still here. Race is still center stage. Now, I came along in the 50s. I went to a segregated high school, so when I tell you about the past, it's not something I read, it's something I was there. I went to a segregated high school in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I left and went to Columbia University in 1960. And it was the first time I ever talked to a white person at 16 years old. Because the country at that time was so divided that people didn't even talk. You've seen pictures of the colored bathroom, the white bathroom. So everything was so divided that people didn't even talk. And when I went to college, I mean, we were always there were 725 freshmen, and there were only 5 African Americans. And we didn't last long. Only 2 of us graduated. So folks, this is the legacy from which we got where we are. I attended the March on Washington. I was a young college student, and when the March on Washington, I was scared to go. Because in that era, fear was huge. You know, I hear a lot of folks, man, they wouldn't do that to me. Let me tell you something. When you got 10 people with guns and you don't have one, it changed your whole attitude. All right? And so, that era is one in which we went through a transformation. When President Obama was elected, I actually thought that we had resolved the race issue. Did anybody think that? It seemed like it was not an issue. It didn't. Because you think about it, it didn't, and not just black people elected Obama, everybody. In that second election, when he was elected twice, that was amazing. What was in it, I was surprised. But that's how racism can affect your mindset, so that you'll even see limitations where they aren't there. I see no limitations. I'm going to say that, and I want you to repeat that after me, because when you all walk out of that door today, you're going to be 6 feet tall and bazooka-proof. Not bulletproof, bazooka-proof. So what was the phrase?
I see no limitations.
Let's say it together.
I see no limitations.
One more time.
I see no limitations.
See, when you say things of power, sometimes you got to wiggle. I mean, you pick up the message again. I see no limitations. Let's try it now. Together.
I see no limitations.
She got it. She's like, I got this. Thank you. And so, when Obama was elected and he realized that twice, you know, in that second election, he got more votes than anybody ever got in history. So we really thought that era was over, but you know what? As that was taking place, you began to hear stuff like the Tea Party. You began to hear stuff like, we got to take our country back. I was speaking in Utah, and the guy ahead of me was talking about, we're going to take our country back, and I'm like, I didn't know somebody was taking the country.
Right.
I didn't get the memo. But this is the environment that we found ourselves. And so, when we come down, we find that this new era is a new racism, and people don't even apologize for it anymore.
Right.
Now that's scary. I mean, in the old days in the Klan, they at least put a hood on, so you wouldn't know who it was. And now it's blatant, it's out. And so the thought is this. What is the answer? Our book is called Solving the Race Issue in America. And it's been really getting incredible feedback. And the thought is, how do we solve the race issue in America? It's a mental thing. It's a mindset. Did you know that there were 2 declarations of independence? In 1776, the group of 55 or 56 men from 13 colonies got together, and they said those incredible words. They said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. But the backstory, and you know about the backstory. The backstory was they were all lying. Because slavery was such a key issue at the time that Thomas Jefferson wrote that if you put slavery in the Declaration of Independence, because one of the things at that time, slavery was fostered by King George in England, and so they said if we put slavery in this thing, this country would never come together. And I want you to remember that point, because this issue of slavery was so important that if it were put on the table at the time in 1776, we probably wouldn't have a And so that's why it keeps coming back again and again. So that's number one. That's the first Declaration of Independence. Then the second Declaration of Independence was in November 11, 1898. And I'm going to read a piece of it to you. And it's called the White Declaration of Independence. It's in the books. It was published in the Raleigh News and Observer. And when you really listen to it, it became the foundation for the next 100 years in America. 1898, the city of Wilmington, North Carolina, was the first time. Oh, man. I like this one better. 1898, have you ever heard of 1898? 1898 is really the only coup that's taken place in this country where people got together and literally ran elected officials out of town. Wilmington, North Carolina was a town very prosperous. As a matter of fact, R.R. Taylor, who designed a lot of the buildings on this campus, was from Wilmington, North Carolina. R.R. Taylor's house is 2 doors down the street from where I live. He was the first black graduate of MIT in 1888. So Wilmington, North Carolina has a very special significance. I don't know what it is about that town, but it seems that whatever happens in Wilmington, that's when the trend goes national. So in 1898, the citizens of Wilmington said this, the White Declaration of Independence, believing that the Constitution of the United States contemplated a government to be carried on by an enlightened people, believing that its framers did not anticipate the enfranchisement of an ignorant population of African origin, and believing that the men of the state of North Carolina who joined in forming the Union, that was the first declaration, did not contemplate for their descendants a subjection to an inferior race. Man, they really laid it on, didn't they? But that was the mindset. It went on to say, we the undersigned citizens of the city of Wilmington County of North Carolina do hereby declare that we will no longer be ruled and will never again be ruled by men of African origin. Those two documents really form the basis of what's going on right now in our country. And so it's a paradigm. It's a paradigm of slavery, which the original Constitution and the original Declaration embodied, versus a paradigm of freedom. And that's what's right. And that's what we've been striving for. That's what the people who built this university were striving for, to create a more free country. But look where we are. The dilemma is this. What will work? The armies didn't work. Do you realize in the Civil War over 600,000 people died? Perpetuate slavery or the end? In other words, slavery was at the middle of the deal. The courts. 1954, what decision was that? Was it Brown versus the Board of Education? Said this down. Separation, separate but equal, was unconstitutional. But that same court in 1896 in Plessy versus Ferguson said it was. Okay. And go back even further, in 1857, that same Supreme Court said, in the Dred Scott decision, it said this, that all people of African descent, free or slave, were not United States citizens and therefore had no right to sue in federal court. So the courts have not done it for us. And so the reason I'm here today is because of the fact that the only change will be a change in mindset. As we see the courts connecting up, welcome, come right on in. These are $1,000 seats. I like that. I went to a Michael Jackson concert, the $500 seats, but if you ever gone to a Michael Jackson concert, it goes on. It's like 3 hours. After 2 hours, I went to sleep. I just dozed off. I mean, that's it. So, the reason I'm here is this, that when we look at what's going on in real time, most of the gains that we gained over the years in the civil rights movement are being eroded. You look at the school system. The public schools are worse than they ever were. Integration really didn't work out that well for us. I mean, frankly, when I was a kid, you had black businesses everywhere. You had teachers who really cared about you. You got to come to a historic black college to find teachers who really care if you learn. Most of them, and I'm not all of them, but a lot of them are just marking time. And so, we're at a point now where the clock is being turned back. And the only people who can change that is you. You see, social change comes about through young people. You are the hope for the future. I'm going to ask you to say an affirmation, and none of you are going to feel a little funny because you may not see yourself as being the hope for the future. But you are. I am the hope for the future. Let's say that together. I am the hope for the future. Now let's say it like we mean it, man. That might be a weak hope. Let's say it like we mean it. Let's go together. I am the hope for the future. Give yourselves a hand. I'm getting better and better. Because we, at the point that we are in our lives, our job is to help you get there.
Right.
See, I like to look at spiritual principle, and that's why it's a spiritual attack we're dealing with. Moses never got to the promised land. And so we, as your faculty, as your teachers, as your instructors, as your mentors, we're not going to get to the promised land. The promised land is in your hands.
That's right.
And so that's one of the reasons we wrote the book. And, you know, I read a lot of books. I guess that's the essence of getting an education, to read them. But I wanted to write a book that was easy to read. See, because you young folks are in a hole, the microwave age. If y'all can't get it right away, you're like, I ain't interested. And I can understand that. There are a lot of books, man, you start to read them, they got so many words in them, you get confused. You're like, I don't care. Let somebody else take the work. And so we wrote the book with the idea that if we gave you some historical facts, Malcolm said, if you don't learn from the past, you're doomed to repeat it. And the way this politics is going right now, they might be trying to send us all back. So it's you all that will make the difference. There's an interesting quote from Edward Markham. And it says this, it says, he drew a circle and shut me out. Heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. And that's really what the power structure is doing right now. As we see what's happening on the horizon in politics, in business, even in education. I mean, these charter schools, public schools are working quite well. But you got to fund them. And so we know historically that the charter schools came out of the fact that when the schools were integrated, white folks didn't want to go along with it, so they started setting up private schools. But at that time, they couldn't get a tax credit for it. So all the charter schools now is letting you set up these schools and you get a tax credit now. So when you see that going on, that's the paradigm. The other half of that quote says, but love, and love is relationship, but love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took him in. And so your job, young people, is to create this new mindset where we go from the paradigm of slavery to the paradigm of freedom. Where we go from, it's not about the white race or the black race, it's about the human race. And the whole global technology, the global world supports that. Like everybody now is on the same, they'll be on the page and the same telephone. on the same website. And so you as young people now have that job to start to bring about this transformation, this change. Let me check my watch here. You know, when I worked for Reverend Ike, I was a preacher. And you know, preachers get going, but they don't know when to stop. So we got to put a watch up here so I can see what time it is, because you know, it's like if we were going through the 10 Commandments and I only got through 6 of them, and then y'all had to leave. That wouldn't be right. So let me make sure we get it right. So now, if this is the case, then the one truth is that social transformation takes place among young people. And so when I say a spiritual approach, you look at the history and then you just act accordingly. The Greensboro Four, everybody knows who they are, right? I didn't hear a whole lot. The Greensboro Four. The Greensboro Four were 4 college students. On February 1st of 1960, they went and they sat in at the lunch counter of the Woolworth store. Up until that time, when I was a kid, I couldn't eat in the Woolworths. If anything, you go around the side and get a little bag of fried chicken. You know, I still don't like chicken to this day. These 4 young men, college students like you, decided that segregation was wrong, and they went and they sat in at the Woolworth store in Greensboro, North Carolina. And that's why this book is important. Because you need to know that. Had you any idea that 4 college students literally started the whole change that became the Civil Rights era? It wasn't the preachers, it wasn't the pastors, it wasn't the politicians, it was college students just like you. JoJo McNeil was only 17, a freshman. Ezel Blair was only 18, David was 18, Frank McCain was the old guy, he was 19. Young people just like you made up their mind to go down and sit in at the Woolworth store. And what happened? Once they did it, other college students, you know how it's like when people see you do something successfully, they'll follow you. I was looking at the slides. I was going to do the airport. Now everybody's wearing slides now. I'm like, man, suppose you have to run. You know, in the old days, as a black man, you never know when you had to run. So you don't want to carry no slides. But people see what other people do and they imitate. And so once these 4 young men sat down at the counter in Greensboro, literally over the entire country, every college student, they were jumping on buses, they were coming down south, they were coming into those stores, they were changing the world. 4 college students just like you. Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. Stokely was a young man at 19. He was down in Mississippi busting out of jail. He was down there organizing. Stokely was changing the world. Even Dr. Martin Luther King, you know, when he did the Montgomery bus boycott, he was only 26 years old. And so the point is that for social change to take place, you, young people, have to make it happen. Our job is to give you some experience, some education, some knowledge, some methodology. When those 4 young men went down to Greensboro to the Woolworth, they didn't go alone. They went alone physically, but everybody in school was supporting them. All the faculty was saying, if they lock you up, we'll come get you. We ain't going down there ourselves. Okay, but we got a job to keep. But if you go down there, we'll come get you. And it's that type of work back and forth between the faculty and the students that's going to make this change. So, what is it that we need to do? Well, first, I think each of us needs to recognize that you all are blessed. I am blessed. Let's say that together. I am blessed. Let's say it like you mean it. I am blessed. You realize you're in college? Think about all your friends who never got here. You go home, you know when you go home, you almost feel bad sometimes. You see your friends and like, man, y'all doing terrible. You don't want to say anything, but it's true. Okay? And so you all are blessed. And guess what? If you think back, I bet you there's some teacher, some minister, some mentor that helped you along the way, that made that difference in your life. How many people can think of a person, that one person who, whatever they said, maybe they said you can do it. Maybe they said send in that application. Maybe they said, look, we'll pay the application fee. How many of you have somebody, just raise your hand, somebody can remember that person? Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you. Beautiful. And that's our role. Our role as teachers is to be that person so that when y'all get out there on the battlefield, you can say, well, it's because I remember my teacher was L.S. Williams. Now, she was the same one that helped JoJo McNeil, one of the Greensboro Four. And L.S. Williams, I'll never forget, we called her the Big Wheel. She was so mean, she'd walk in the men's bathroom and jack you up. She didn't care what you were doing in there. But one thing she told us, and I'll never forget it, she said, always be your best. Always do your best. She said, sometimes, people will throw a block, and they do. Sometimes people will discourage you, and they do. But being your best is internal. You can't let people discourage you. Now, when you leave here today, you're going to be thinking, man, I got to pay attention. I got to see what's going on, because H.J. Harris was telling me all this stuff. Maybe I wasn't aware of it. I needed to sit up and pay attention. As you go out, these ideas are going to come back in your mind. Be your best. And when stuff doesn't go right, it's okay. Can you imagine the Greensboro Four after that first day and said, man, this is tough. These white people are throwing stuff on me, cussing me out. Oh, man, they done threw spit on me. I'm leaving. If they had not endured, we wouldn't be here now. So I want to hit with 4 points that I think will help guide you. And when I say you, I help guide us, because I can't get to the promised land. You got to get there, but you can't get there without me, because I need to help show the way. Would you agree?
That's right.
So number 1, be proactive. You can't sit back anymore and wait for the thing to show up. You sit back, you'll miss it. And so when I say be proactive, we've seen the mountaintop, but we got to get there. And so young people study the past as a step 1 when you leave here. You take a book and start learning. This is a great one. I'm sure they're going to have it in the bookstore here. But you'll start seeing stuff. The little things that when the Nazi troops were brought here from after World War II, the black soldiers, when they were transporting the troops to the south, to prison camps, the Nazis could eat in the dining hall, and the black soldiers who was guarding them couldn't. We just had the Super Bowl. And for many years, there were no black quarterbacks. Because the mindset said that a black man didn't have the intelligence to be a quarterback. Now look out there now. I mean, these brothers are tearing it up. I mean, I wish I was 100 years younger. I'd go for the team. But I mean, it's amazing. You see, they're doing things that other quarterbacks never did. And so, this mindset of paying attention, being proactive, is to pay attention to stuff like that. Say, okay, I see what's going on. Let me learn from the past so that I can properly go to the future. Number 2. I got a lot of notes here. Let's see here. See, I looked at my watch. I'm thinking, no, I ain't going to let myself get jacked up. I'm going to give you all 10 commandments. Okay. Number 2 is to see the big picture. So when you see the big picture, you see what it really is. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, but you have to be the one to go over to the promised land. And so when I say see the big picture, start reading more. See, the internet, a lot of older people are like, man, y'all should put those phones down and get your head out the computer. The internet's a powerful tool. You used to have to spend hours to go find out how many students there are at Tuskegee. Now you can just ask Siri, how many students there are at Tuskegee? 3,140. Okay. And so use that tool now to get what you need. To give you the tools, the access, the understanding, knowing your role now that you got to change the world. When you see that big picture, there's a quote that I like to think about. And many times in academia, we get off the track. You know, a lot of times you think it's not happening to you. You know, many times the companies I'm with, they're like, well, Herb, you don't have to worry about it. I say, every time my daughter goes out in the street, I'm worried. She's halfway mouthy. I got a son, he's halfway crazy. So every time he goes out in the street, I worry about them. You don't worry about it. I have to worry about them. There's a poem, a writing by German minister Martin Niemöller, German. But it talks about what happens when people are not proactive, when they don't go out there and do something. And he's talking about World War II, when the Germans were taking over. And he said, first, they came for the socialists. I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the unionists. I did not speak out, because I was not a unionist. Then they came for the Jews. I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. And that's why your job is so important. You got the education. Who else can do it? People in jail can't do it. They're in a bad situation. White people can't do it. Now, there are a lot of good white people, and that's important. This whole anti-slavery movement, the whole integration movement, was built on good white people and good black people working together. So you got to always remember that. You got to be able to see who's the good people and who's not, so you can act accordingly. A lot of times you can change people. A lot of people are evil and mean just out of ignorance. They don't know any better. So when you begin to see that big picture, you begin to say, hey, I got to start speaking up for other people, so that we all can get to the promised land. On that big picture idea, the one, we are all being robbed. We're being robbed, you and I, of our time. So many of the things that you see on your phone, on the computer, on the television, steal your time. And time is the key. All of us have the same number of hours in the day, so how you use your time is critical. I know when I went to college, my time, I wasted it. Only thing, we didn't have video games, so the only thing we did was chase women. Somebody say, man, you become what you think about most of the time. I'm like, OMG, I think I'm going to be a woman. Okay? But now, you come to college, you got video, you got the video games. They suck up your time. You got chilling with a 40. Sucks up your time. And then you're still chasing girls. Okay, that hasn't changed. So the point is that start to value your time. And from now on, ask yourself, what's the best use of my time right now? And if it's not watching this clip video or doing that, then don't do it. Start working on the stuff that's important. Number 3. Let me close that little section out. There's a nice scripture, and it says in Corinthians 13th chapter, it says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Ladies and gentlemen, you all are grown now. You all are adults now. And it's time to take the world by the horns. Give yourself a hand for being so smart. So the third key is to be an example. See, we've been an example for you all because we've been running around telling you what you got to do. But once you start on this path of concern and change, you become an example for other people. Just as the Greensboro Four were an example for college students all over the world, each of you can be an example to your other students. And you have to be. Because the moment you start doing it, people are going to follow what you do. They're going to imitate what you do. The fourth point. Oh, I have an affirmation. I am a great example. Let's say that together.
I am a great example.
Get a little bit more wiggle with it.
All right, together. I am a great example.
All right. Woo. Number 4, you got to be committed to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes. We can encourage you, but you're the one that's got to go on the battlefield. We can come get you, but you got the one that's got to take the chance. So, no one else can do it. We're your resource to help give you the experience, the tools, the methodology, but it's in your hands. You have to be proactive. You got to start going out and finding out what's going on. You got to see the big picture. When you see the big picture, the world picture, you can impact it. You got to be an example. Because all the other young people are looking at you. And then finally, you got to be committed to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes until you get there. So I'm going to close today with the words of Greta Thunberg, a young climate activist. She said this. She said, I don't want you to be hopeful. I want you to panic. I want you to feel the fear that I feel every day. I want you to act like you would in a crisis. I want you to act like your house is on fire. Because it is. So young people, students, the ball's in your hands. Take it and run to justice. Let's say, I run to justice together. I run to justice. Take it and run to freedom together. I run to freedom. Take it and run to that promised land where America can truly live out its creed. That all men are created equal. All men and all women. That's the new. We can't run that no more. All men and all women are created equal, with certain inalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And when we can do that, and I know you're going to do it, when we can do that, then we can all, as Dr. King says, sit together at the table of brotherhood and say, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Thank you so much. We are free.